Well, folks, here we are again for the weekly forecast. During this past week, the only major precipitation that was reported across the state was in that Sunday afternoon through Monday morning time frame, primarily impacting the western one-third of the state. And from the western one-third of the state, the greatest amount of moisture reported was across the Panhandle and the western half of the Sandhills region. And generally totals were in the quarter of an inch with a few isolated spots around a half an inch. And then we had a few scattered showers break out in east central and southeast Nebraska Thursday evening into Friday morning as we had a warm front lifting across the state. But that system was expected to generate some fairly significant snow accumulations, lake effect at that, across northern Michigan as it started to draw some very cold air in, and that will continue throughout this weekend. For us, we have one system to deal with during this next week, and that will be coming in on Monday, which will bring in some cooler air with just a light chance for some scattered precipitation, nothing major. The heavy precipitation stays to our south. So let's take a look at the upper air models and see how this will play out. First of all, here's that ridge in place, the trough of the cold air that's bringing the snowfall to the east of us. And then in the west, we have another trough moving in that will be our player in our forecast as we get into Monday. This is expected to bring some heavy precipitation to Washington, Oregon, and the northern one-third of California. Totals anywhere from 2 upwards of 5 inches of moisture with this system as it moves eastward. Very good news for a drought-stricken area that's been dealing off and on with some very significant drought for the better part of the last couple of years. It's going to take numerous of these events for us to erase that drought. We don't expect to see much in the way of significant erasure of this drought, but this is a second system in a series of systems over the past couple of weeks that are starting to bring moisture to the region. So this may be more of a positive outlook for the western United States in terms of drought relief if we continue to see this pattern develop over the next couple of months. Now, as we go into tomorrow, we're going to notice that trough starting to make its way toward the east. So our high pressure system is going to drop toward the southeast. It's going to bring some warmer area into southeastern Nebraska. In the same token, some cool air is going to start funneling into the northwest. So the cold front starts to make its way into the northwest corner of the state during the afternoon hours and the early evening hours. And then that is expected to pass through the state during the overnight hours and leave Nebraska in the cool air with the warmer air to our south. So here we go on tomorrow morning. You can see the main energy to the south of us. This is where the greatest amount of precipitation is going to fall from the Panhandle northeastward up through northwest Missouri. Within this zone, looking at 1 to possibly 3 inches of precipitation. But for Nebraska proper, from the southeast part of the state, where we're looking at 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch, and this would be in the extreme southeastern corner, dropping off to virtually nothing as you get northwest of I-80 in the Lincoln area. Now, as we go into Tuesday, this system starts to shift toward the east. We get a high pressure system from the west trying to build in. That's going to give us some northwest flow aloft, so some cool air invades the region, particularly in northeastern Nebraska, and warm air starts to build in across the western part of the state, and that will start to expand toward the east, but it's going to be held up a day as this system comes out of Canada, starts to move toward the south and emerges up with this trough to generate a fairly robust area of low pressure across the eastern Corn Belt, and of course bring some heavy precipitation. By the time we get to Thursday, you can see this system really winds itself up. We see this ridge trying to build in, so we're kind of caught in the confluence zones between the very warm air to our southwest and the cold air to our northeast. So the coolest temperature will be in northeast Nebraska. And then on Friday, we start to see the ridge taking more of a hold across the central plains, and the cold air starts to shift off toward our east. So if we look at the temperature forecast, we are looking at 70s out west this weekend with 50s up in northeast Nebraska, cooling into the 50s and 40s this early next week with that system coming through, and then a gradual warming trend as the week progresses. The 8 to 14 day forecast from next Thursday to the following Tuesday indicates that we will still be dealing with above normal temperatures. And in terms of precipitation, the heaviest precipitation is expected across the northern boundary of Canada and the United States and to our east. And then if we look at the 3-month forecast, and this basically is our winter forecast, cool to our south, warm to our north, and in terms of precipitation, wet to our south, dry to our east and our northwest, and really no trend is defined here in Nebraska.